Hey there, cats and kittens, and thanks for tuning in to another episode of the MonkeyBoy Presents the DC Comics Superhero Collection by Eaglemoss, and today I'm happy to bring you issue number 111 in the series, Aqualad. And this is a controversial issue for me. It's sort of the beginning you can see in the collection where DC started to focus on their recent changes to the DC Universe, specifically the New 52. They really started to push the new interpretations of the characters. It sort of started with Grifter in the previous issue, but it really starts to become more apparent with Aqualad on. That's not to say this is a bad figure, it's just a weird issue. If you know Aqualad, chances are you probably know the original Aqualad, which is interesting because this magazine mostly talks about the original Aqualad, whose name was Garth. He didn't have a last name, he was just simply known as Garth. And if you know the character, you probably know him from his animated appearances, specifically from his first animated appearance on the old Filmation cartoon show from the 1960s, the Superman Aquaman Hour of Adventure. He also appeared in some of the Teen Titans shorts that appeared as a part of that series as well. He went on to appear in the Teen Titans animated series as Aqualad, where he was voiced by none other than Will Wheaton of Star Trek The Next Generation fame and his new show on the Sci-Fi Channel, The Will Wheaton Experience. He went on to appear, Aqualad that is, in episodes of The Brave and the Bold, in numerous episodes as a matter of fact, where he was seen both as a young child and as the teenaged version of Aqualad. And finally, he made a brief appearance on one episode of Young Justice, also on Cartoon Network, where he was never referred to as Aqualad or as Tempest. He was only ever called Garth. If you're familiar with the current Aqualad, well, that's probably because you watched Young Justice, where he appeared as a regular character. Jackson Hyde, the current Aqualad, was a founding member of the Young Justice team and appeared on every season that show aired. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Aqualad, either the original Garth interpretation, who went on to become known as Tempest, or the current Aqualad, Jackson Hyde, well, that of course is why we have the magazine, which will tell you everything you need to know about both of the characters who were once known as Aqualad, or who are still known as Aqualad, and then we'll take a look at the figure itself, covering the good, the bad, and the ugly. It's a nice figure. We'll cover that, of course. It's just, I have issues with this that I will cover. It has nothing to do with the character, nothing to do with the figure itself. I just kind of question why they did this version of Aqualad. We'll get to that when we get to that. Until then, please sit back, relax, and do enjoy this really cool character. I give you issue number 111 in the DC Comics Superhero Collection by Eaglemoss, Aqualad. First up, the character section. With the origin of the original Aqualad, Garth of Shiaris. We learn Shiaris is a hidden underwater kingdom that was founded by Idealists, a group of Atlanteans who had devoted themselves to the principles of pacifism. That is, until the king of this peaceful people exiled his brother from the kingdom and began to militarize. This controversial move would prove fatal to King Thar when he was assassinated by an Idealist radical. After this, his wife Bera, who was pregnant with their unborn child, was banished from Shiaris. Bera eventually found refuge in the Atlantean city of Poseidonus, where she gave birth to a boy she named Garth. Unfortunately, Garth was born with purple eyes, which the superstitious Atlanteans believed to be an ill omen, and Bera was forced to leave the baby to die on a deserted reef. Aqualad loved being the heroic Aquaman's sidekick, and looked to the King of Atlantis as a father figure. Garth began to spend less time with Aquaman, though, when the hero was splitting his time between the Justice League, his new wife Mera, and ruling the underwater kingdom of Atlantis. So the teenaged hero went out and found other teenaged heroes, and began to fight crime on their own. Aqualad originally teamed up with fellow teenage sidekicks Kid Flash and Robin to take down a villain known as Mr. Twister. The trio were soon joined by Wonder Girl and Speedy, and formed the first incarnation of the Teen Titans. Garth soon began to date and fell in love with a girl named Tula, who was actually a princess of Poseidonus, and the pair would go on numerous adventures together when he wasn't fighting crime with the Teen Titans. On one of their many adventures together, Tula and Garth were captured by the villainous Black Manta and were almost executed by him. Luckily, Garth's mentor and former partner in crime fighting, Aquaman, was tracking the Black Manta and managed to save the teenage duo. Black Manta revealed he had kidnapped Aquaman's infant son, was holding him hostage, and would kill the child if Aquaman didn't duel Aqualad in gladiatorial combat to the death. After a violent battle, Aqualad and Aquaman managed to escape from Black Manta's clutches and chase the villain off. Unfortunately, it was too late for Aquaman's son, who perished during the conflict. Garth also turned his back on Aquaman, feeling betrayed by his one-time mentor, and chose instead to stay behind in Shieris so that he could learn more about his heritage. He eventually discovered a hidden armory that belonged to his father, which he was able to access. Inside he found all kinds of weaponry, as well as recordings that had shown how his father attempted to militarize the peaceful idealists. Not very long after learning about his tragic past, the Crisis on Infinite Earths descended upon the DC Universe. Garth and Tula fought bravely against the evil Anti-Monitor and other villains like Black Manta and the Shark. Unfortunately, Tula died during the crisis when she was poisoned by another villain named Chemo before Garth could save her. Garth had not, in fact, perished at all, but instead was transported to an interdimensional junction called the Grotto. While there, he was taught Atlantean magic by an ancient wizard known as Atlan. Garth had learned how to create intense cold with his right hand, intense heat with his left, emit devastating energy beams from his eyes, and now bore a distinctive scar over his left eye that he acquired during a magical ritual. He also began calling himself Tempest. As Tempest, Garth went on to protect the kingdom of Shieris, and even united its people behind him. For a short time, Garth experienced happiness after meeting and falling in love with a girl named Dolphin, whom he eventually married and had a child with. Unfortunately, their happiness was short-lived when, during the Infinite Crisis, the Spectre attacked the city that they were in, and both Dolphin and her child were buried in the rubble. It was while he was still grieving for the loss of his wife and child that he also temporarily sat upon the throne of Atlantis, when both Aquaman and Mera were forced to leave the kingdom. It wasn't long before Blackest Night fell upon the DC Universe, causing dead heroes to rise from their graves, becoming twisted evil versions of their former selves, and this included both of Garth's long-lost loves, Dolphin and Tula. Of the DCU thwarted Blackest Night, the brightest day began to dawn across the universe, which is when we meet Jackson Hyde, a teenager who lives in the dusty and dry town of Silver City, New Mexico. His parents had always taught Jackson to stay away from water and to have a great fear of it, but it was during a freak rainstorm that he first discovered he had special powers. After being rescued by Aquaman when the evil Black Manta attacked both Jackson and his parents, the teenager learned the truth from Aquaman's wife, Queen Mera, of his heritage. He learned that his mother had been kidnapped by a group of evil Atlanteans into a parallel dimension where they conducted experiments on her. These experiments are what gave Jackson his unique abilities. It was also revealed to him that his father was none other than the villainous Black Manta. After learning all of this over the course of just a few days, Jackson Hyde chose to side with Aquaman and his wife Mera to stand against the evil Black Manta and his army. of Aqualad's classic stories. First, we look at Tempest, issues 1 through 4. This story opens with Garth following the wizard Atlan back to the kingdom of Shieris. It's within the walls of the city that a ceremony must be performed to unlock Garth's true magical potential. When the two arrive, they find the city completely abandoned except for 2 women, one of whom looks strangely like his long-dead girlfriend, Tula. It's ultimately revealed that Garth's uncle is still alive. He is now twisted and evil, having used dark magics to prolong his life, and that he was banished by Garth's father, King Thar, because he was trying to usurp the throne even then. Garth manages to unlock his true magical abilities, takes the name Tempest, and unites the people of Shieris against his villainous uncle. It's a beautifully illustrated story, and is a great way to get to know more about Garth. We also have Brightest Day, books 1 through 3. After the event called Blackest Night came the event called Brightest Day. We learn that Jackson lived in landlocked New Mexico, and we follow him as he discovers that his parents aren't really his parents, that he was adopted, that he's actually a hybrid of an evil group of Atlanteans and a human, giving him unique powers and abilities when he's exposed to the water. He soon discovers that his father is none other than the Black Manta, one of Aquaman's greatest foes. Jackson ultimately decides to side with Aquaman and Mera to fight against his evil father, Black Manta, and the rebels that he's now leading, and takes the mantle of Aqualad as his own. It's another beautifully illustrated story, and one of the more interesting tales that came out of the Brightest Day event, and you should pick it up so you too can see the origin of the newest Aqualad. The Friends and Foes section features both the ladies that Garth loved, Dolphin and Tula, friend and mentor to both Aqualads, the heroic Aquaman, and the villainous Black Manta, father to the new Aqualad, Jackson Hyde. Finally, the iconography section takes a look at some of the other submarine heroes in the DCU. It looks first at Neptune Perkins, who used his underwater abilities to fight in World War II as a member of the All-Star Squadron. Danish superhero The Little Mermaid, who protected the world as a member of the Global Guardians and even fought alongside Superman. We next meet the witty and telepathic Lagoon Boy, the beguiling mermaid Shiva, and the super-intelligent whale in a power suit named Ishmael, codenamed Blubber, who all went on to become members of the Teen Titans. The beautiful and powerful Tsunami, who also fought in World War II with the Young All-Stars, and went on to marry Neptune Perkins. A creature called Devilfish that the Legion of Superheroes encountered in the 31st century, which, despite its fearsome look, is virtually harmless and feeds upon pollutants in the ocean. Last, we have Aquaman's long-lost half-sister, Indigo, also codenamed Deep Blue, who has fought alongside her brother, the King of Atlantis, on numerous occasions. And here we have Aqualad, at least the most recent interpretation of Aqualad, Jackson Hyde. And for what this is, it's a great figure. I am really impressed with this character, at least in the figure form here. While I might have issues with this character in the comic books and the fact that he was included in this line, which I'll touch on in the next section, I don't hold that against the fact that this is really a very, very well done figure. There's so much detail here. The sculpt is really well done. You can see his weapons are great, and it's the same pose. It's straight off the cover of this magazine, which is a panel straight out of the comic book, so it's appropriate. And the detail on those weapons are just great. You can see the sword has this sort of swirling detail, like the water is forming into this blade. It has a bit of an edge to it. His tattoo is glowing down his arm, which is awesomely detailed. He has his necklaces. I love how his eyes are glowing. All the way down to his feet, he's got this great glossy sheen to him. He looks fantastic. I have very little to complain about this figure as a figure. I just have complaints about why it was included, which of course I'll touch upon in the next section, along with all the very good that this figure has to offer in the next section in just a moment. Aqualad stands atop the classic DC logo, and the underside of the base features his name and serial number. And so you can compare, here he is next to his father, the evil Black Manta, alongside his mentor, the King of Atlantis, Aquaman, and in a group shot with the other members of the Teen Titans that have been released by Eaglemoss so far. Aqualad, the Jackson Hyde version of the character anyway, is very, very nice. He is well done. I have little to complain about. The good definitely outweighs the bad. I do have some nitpicks, and they are nitpicks aside from the fact that I just wonder why they didn't hold off on Jackson and give us the Garth version of Aqualad, but of course I'll cover that in just a moment. Because we have to start with the good, of which there is a lot. This guy is really, really well done. I love the sculpting, I love the paint job, I love the different textures, I love the skin tone, the weapons in his hands, how his eyes are glowing. All of the little details on this guy are very, very well done. And it looks like Jackson too, which I love. Starting at the base, of course, you can see the wetsuit sort of look that his pants have. It's the same sort of look that Black Manta has. It's this otherworldly texture. He has the little sort of fins on the back of the calves. There are great molds and sculpting going on. His musculature is really well defined. I love his torso and his upper body. Again, the musculature is perfect. I love that orangey red of the costume, along with the gold paint. And it is gold. It's not yellow. It's gold. It's really cool. The A symbol in the center of the belt. The black piping on the arms and the neck. All really well done. And again, his skin tone, the texturing, the musculature, all really, really cool. The weapons in the hands are nicely done. I like the sort of coral or bone sort of look to the handles of the weapons, and then the way they made it look like water that he's generating using his powers, or one of his powers anyway, to create his weapons, the mace and the sword, which both look really well done. They look like the weapons they're supposed to represent. And the tattoo on the right arm also is glowing. It's this nice neon blue. It's not a decal either. It's all hand-painted, which is really nice. And that brings us, of course, to the head sculpt. It looks like Jackson. It's exceptionally done. I like the look on his face, how he has this determined, I'm charging into battle sort of look. The hair is awesome. Love the dreads. Love the texture of it, how it looks as though it's flowing, as though he's floating underwater or something. It's really, really cool. Also, the chain around his neck is really well detailed. Number of different chains, it's that gold paint, and then the things are there, the charms are there. He has the shark tooth, he has the half clam shell, he has the little things, and they're really well done. It's hard to get a good picture, but trust me, they're there, and they're cool. And his eyes, I love how they're glowing, again, manifesting his powers. It's a really awesome figure, especially if you're a fan of Jackson Hyde. Which brings us to the bad, and nitpicks aside first, which are nitpicks. I wish the weapons were made out of a translucent plastic so they would look like water that way. They would have that see-through translucency. Not that these aren't great, they really, really are, and he's a solid lead figure with the weapons the way they're presented here, which I totally appreciate. It's just a little nitpick, as I said. Also conspicuously missing are the gills on either side of Jackson's neck. I wish that they were there. It seems like something they should have remembered, but again, it's a nitpick on my part. My only complaint is, I wish that this was the Garth version of Aqualad, or Tempest if they wanted to make a Tempest. You can see here, this is a picture by an artist on DeviantArt who goes by Zero1984. He does custom homemade Eaglemoss figures. This is his interpretation of what the Tempest figure would have been like. This is what I would have wanted. Because look at the magazine. It focuses all on Garth, the original Aqualad, who became Tempest. Give us Jackson later. I love the figure. I really, really do. I love the character. He's had a chance to grow and develop. You can see when this magazine was released, he has, what, a few paragraphs, and that's about it? Less than a page that he's mentioned in this because he was so new. He just feels forced, and not that I don't love the figure, I just would have rather had Garth. That's my biggest complaint. Finally, the ugly. Of course, I think you figured it out. The only thing to watch out for on this guy will be the weapons in his hands. As nice as they are, of course, very fragile because they're soft lead. Easy to bend, easy to break. Definitely want to check before you purchase if you can. Overall, this is another outstanding character. He is really well done. It's Jackson through and through, the current Aqualad. Love how his powers are on display. Really love everything about this guy. It's cool to have him on the shelf. Cool to have him next to Aquaman, and if you are a completionist like me, or you just like Aquaman, here's another good reason to pick him up, because he's the last character in the Aquaman family to be represented in this line. This is it. It's Mara, Aquaman, and Aqualad, the Jackson Hyde version, staring down Black Manta, the only Aquaman villain in the whole line too, which is unfortunate because there's some great Aquaman villains. He also looks great if you like to pose your figures in teams, or you just like to collect specific teams with the rest of the Teen Titans or Young Justice. Take your pick. That continues to grow. They will continue to grow. The last figure in the series actually is a member of Teen Titans, so you'll see this keep getting bigger and bigger. Although I would have preferred having Garth first over Jackson. Jackson's a great looking figure. He really, really is. If you're a fan of the Teen Titans, if you're a fan of Aquaman, if you're a fan of Aqualad, pick him up, add him to your collection. And I hope you have enjoyed my review of issue number 111 here, Aqualad, the Jackson Hyde version. Please stay tuned for a quick teaser trailer of the next issue in the series. It's a villain-turned-hero with the New 52. I guess he's a misunderstood vigilante, as it were, and a figure that a lot of you have been asking me for, patiently waiting, anxious to get to. I'm happy to finally be at issue number 112. Please stay tuned for that quick teaser. As always, I am your host, the Monkey Boy, aka Jay to his friends. Thanks for watching.